If you're building a new home, then having an outdoor covered space with a ceiling fan and solar panels on your roof could make a world of difference. Why? Well, stay tuned to find out. Designing a compliant home is about to get a little more difficult. From the 1st of May 2024, there are new energy efficiency standards coming into play in some parts of Australia, which might mean you'll be spending more of your budget on glazing, insulation, and for the first time, appliances. Hi everyone, if you're thinking of building and renovating, then this is the place to be. I am Nikki, and tonight I will be going through all of the new energy efficiency standards that you need to know for building your new home. This year has seen a big overhaul of the National Construction Code, or NCC, and their adjacent documents and regulations. For tonight, we will only be covering energy efficiency. There are a whole heap more updates that have to do with bathrooms and entry to the house and widths of corridors. If you want to know more about those, check the links in the description to other videos we've done. As usual, each state is slightly different, so when I reference anything in this video, please ensure you check your state or territory documentation to ensure nothing is overridden. Have you ever been at home and noticed your lights and fans sometimes slowing down, dimming, or flickering throughout the whole house? Well, this could be a brownout, which is where the amount of power entering your home drops. This is usually due to an increased demand for power, shortages in the supply network, or extreme weather conditions. Unfortunately, brownouts and full blackouts are becoming more common as our demand for technology increases. So the powers that be have decided that new homes built in Australia need to be set up to combat this. By updating the energy efficiency requirements, the aim is to reduce everyday energy consumption, reduce peak energy demand and hopefully reduce brownouts and blackouts, reduce emissions, and improve occupant health and safety, especially during Australian heatwaves. Wishing you peace and love and an energy efficient home. As usual, every state and territory is different, because why would they make it easy for us? Why wear shoes when you can wear socks and sandals? So anyway, from the 1st of May 2024, if you are in Queensland or Victoria, then you will require a new 2-part energy assessment for your new home. If you are in the ACT, these requirements should already have been adopted. Righteous. South Australia won't be until the second part of this year, which is the 1st of October 2024. Western Australia will be next year, the 1st of May 2025. The Northern Territory adopted it last year with a 5-star rating and no requirement for an energy report, so a few little changes there. Tasmania have said, stuff that, we're not doing that at all. And New South Wales have their own thing going on. So, like I said before, check these rules based on your specific location. If you are in Queensland, Victoria, ACT, South Australia or WA, then whenever the updates come in for you, it means you will need a minimum 7-star NatHERS rating, up from the 6 stars, and a minimum 60% pass mark for a whole of home energy performance rating. Both of these parts have to pass separately in order to get your building permit. Sounds simple, right? Well, sort of, not really. Wait, what? So let me start by explaining the NatHERS rating. NatHERS is the nationwide house energy rating scheme. It is a star rating scheme used to rate a building's thermal performance, which essentially means how difficult it is to heat or cool the house. The rating is out of 10 stars and includes information about the building's envelope or skin. This means the roof, walls, floor, windows and glazed doors are all taken into account when assessing your building's performance. Usually an energy assessor will ask you a whole heap of information, plug it into an approved software program, and then it will spit out a rating. Currently, the minimum required level is 6 out of 10 stars. The new requirement has raised this to 7. If you want to know more about the NatHERS rating, there are links in the description where I explain this a little bit more detail. So how do we get to 7 stars? Well, thankfully, most single-storey slab-on-ground houses can easily comply with a 6-star rating if you have reasonable sun shading, insulation in the walls and roof, and limit the amount of exposed glazing you have on northern walls. But how do you get that extra star? Well, remember how I said that having an outdoor area with a fan can make all the difference? Well, here is why. If you are lucky enough to live in climate zones 1 or 2, then you can easily get the additional star by simply adding an outdoor covered area with a ceiling fan. This new outdoor covered area must be attached to a living space, have a floor area over 12 square meters, which is like 3 meters by 4 meters, have a 2.1 opening height, be open or have at least one openable side, and have a permanently installed ceiling fan serving these areas. Simple! Now I hear some of you saying, what if I live outside of these climate zones? Or I want a 2-story building that's up on stumps and not a slab on ground. Well, that's when it gets a little bit more tricky. It's still doable, but tricky. What I suggest is utilizing as many passive design principles as possible and engage an energy assessor early in the design stage. That way, you are not potentially redesigning anything or spending a fortune on expensive glazing or insulation that you might need just to get that extra star. There are many areas of the home where you can utilize passive design. Orientation, shading, ventilation, glazing, and material selections all help. It's like a big hug for the planet. The biggest and usually the most cost-effective principle is orientation. I did a whole video about how to do that, and the tip is it's not just about north. It's about your location first. So the link is in the description if you want to check that out in more detail. Next is to use appropriate shading and ventilation. Wider eaves, window shading, crossflow ventilation are all important. If you can get the wind to flow through from one side of the house to the other, then you can very easily vent hot air out of the house, making it easier to keep cool. Equally, if you have good quality windows and doors that have a good seal, when you want to keep the heat in winter or the dry season, then you can do that much more effectively. Something that people often forget is lighter colours reflect more heat. So choose lighter colours for your roof and external walls. For example, the difference between the solar absorbance and the reflectance of Dover White and June isn't really that much. But the difference between Dover White and Monument or Night Sky is huge. This simple change can make a big difference. Also think about the size and location of all of your glazing. Do you really need big glass doors on the northern or westernmost walls? This is going to allow loads of heat into your home during summer. Would it be better to have low E glass instead of double glazing? You might achieve the same rating at a different cost. In some climates, incorporating more thermal mass into your walls, roof or floor can also help too. You could do this by adding bulk insulation into stud walls or selecting concrete or brick veneer walls. Loads of different options there. The idea behind this is to keep the internal temperature of the house as stable as possible all year round. This means you are less likely to rely on active heating and cooling to stay comfortable. On a side note, don't use high thermal loads in the tropics unless you have full wall sun shading and cross-flow ventilation. You would just be trapping the heat in the walls and making the space hotter, more humid, and hurting your rating in the long run, which will ultimately cost you a lot in air conditioning. The tropics are a way of life. Just go with the flow. Be totally wicked. Spread those good vibes. Click that like button. So you've got the correct orientation, sun shading and insulation all sorted. What now? Well, that used to be it. You would get your star rating, get your building permit and start building. Oh yeah, man, let's go. Hey, just wait up there. Wait, what? Why? The new rules now mean we need to look at how much energy your home is likely to use and in some cases produce. It is more of a whole building assessment of how efficient it is. Oh, cool. This will help reduce energy bills, which we can all agree is a big issue at the moment, as well as ensuring more comfortable living spaces. In terms of the bigger picture, it will also put less strain on the grid and hopefully meaning less brownouts and blackouts for everyone. To comply with the new rules, the whole of home assessment needs a rating of not less than 60% in order to pass. It is effectively an energy use assessment for your air conditioning, hot water systems, artificial lighting, and pool and spa pumps. Traditionally, these are the biggest energy suckers in the household. Thankfully, this assessment also takes into account any solar photovoltaic energy systems that you might have installed on your roof. Think of it like a balancing act with your power usage on one side and the power generation on the other. We can lower the power requirements by having more efficient appliances and less need of them through passive design techniques like what I discussed earlier. We can raise the power generation by increasing the capacity of the solar panel system, or we can put them on the parts of the roof that get the most sun for most parts of the year. General rule of thumb, if you have an average sized 4-bedroom, 1-story home, then including a solar panel system and energy efficient solar hot water system will generally ensure this 60% pass compliance. Also be aware of selecting ducted over split system air conditioners. They can change this 60% pass rate dramatically. So always check with your designer or your energy consultant. One more thing about solar power. If you want your solar PV system to be added to the whole of house calculations, then you will need to select the full system before you can get building approval. This means you need to tell the energy assessor the capacity in kilowatts, the orientation of each panel, the slope of each panel, export capacity in kilowatts, the inverter output, and the number of phases it's got. What? This can be a lot to think about, especially if you are also choosing floor tiles and wall colors, but it is crucial to get this correct. Because if you change your mind later, then a new assessment needs to be done and it might not comply anymore. This could potentially slow down your whole build or delay you getting certification. Now, if you don't wish to install solar PVs, then you can still get your 60% energy usage requirements, but it's tricky. This is where you need really good orientation, energy efficient water heaters, and high energy star rated air conditioners. You might also need to do a few assessments with your energy assessor before you get this right. Remembering that you need both the whole house assessment and the 7-star NatHERS to comply to get your building permit. Just a reminder that this was filmed in 2024, so if you are viewing this in the far future, like in 3 years when the NCC is likely to be updated, then check to ensure this information is still current and make sure you check your individual state or territory dates for when these rules come to effect, if they do at all. Not mentioning anybody. Tasmania. I am Nikki, CEO and founder of Totally Wicked Group. Have a totally wicked evening.